I've beat around the bush a bit here, and here is my hot take. My plan is to also clip this out as its own little video segment for the channel. I don't like how they use Spider-Man 2099 in this movie. I don't like mean, edgy Miguel O'Hara. It should have been Superior Spider-Man. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. No,
I don't.
no. Tell
No.
me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong right now.
You're wrong.
You could have
Okay, so here,
You're lucky Choco started talking. I almost hit Travis with the Alex Jones clip, damn it.
for I think neither of them work perfectly for what they're doing. Like, if I would totally say he's spot on for if it was more time travel related than multiverse related, but
So
I don't know. You're going down the path I cannot follow.
So-
But give me your reasoning.
so yeah, let me cook here. So first of all, I love Miguel. And Miguel, yes, has always had an edge to him, but he's not he's never, to my knowledge, really been depicted as this like bloodthirsty anti-hero. You know, like there's that like famous panel of him in like his 2014 run where the one villain's like, I will execute you both just to secure the time stream. And Miguel just goes, well, what if you just execute her? Am I good? And he's like, theoretically. And he's like, cool, later. Like, I know there's stuff like that, but like, even that is not quite what we're getting from Miguel O'Hara. We're like, in this movie, like, not only is he an antagonistic force, he is cruel, he is mean, he is calloused, he is cold-hearted. And I understand the development they give him for that to be the case. But like, juxtaposed with what we get at the end of the first movie, like when we, and again, it's a minute long post-credit scene. Lord and Miller should not be beholden to that for an entire character arc if that's not what they want to do. But they kind of set up Miguel and kind of how I've always kind of felt like he's been characterized. Kind of crotchety, sarcastic, not like a, lawful good character, but like he's a hero in his own right. And then you have the coldness, the callousness, the cruelty, casual cruelty of 2099 as he's depicted here. And I think, if you're not meant to fully trust Miguel, and again, like, there's all this speculation and disclaimer and like caveats here. First of all, my biggest hang up with saying it should be Superior Spider-Man, it should be Otto. My biggest hang up is the people who really took something away from the I got mine, you won't get yours, like colorism stuff that we talked about earlier. If that beat spoke to you because of the nature of these two characters' backgrounds, I do not want this to come across as though I'm willing to wipe that away, because I think that is a meaningful interpretation, and it is important to me that people felt seen in that moment in that way.
Well, real quick, just to spitball here, even if you took that out, it wouldn't take that away, because you could also look at it. Yes, they were both Hispanic, so that's part of it, could be considered part of it. But another thing to consider is just being Spider-Man. They are a minority in amongst themselves, and so he's saying even amongst this small community, you don't fit in.
Yeah,
it could still have the same meaning. So I don't think it would take it out.
well, thank you.
And
I
who
appreciate
knows? Otto could have. No, he couldn't have.
I
A
think it gets
Superior
weirder.
Spider-Man were Otto Octavius, switches bodies with Miles Morales.
I'm not quite comfortable with that one. I
It's
feel like,
actually the next Superior Spider-Man run that they just announced.
dude, I got to meet him the day they announced it, dude. I'm still so stoked about that. But now let's swap out Superior And also, again, there might be a twist with Miguel being a villain down the road and he's not actually Miguel O'Hara, it's an inheritor. Like, if something like that happens, then obviously this doesn't work. But let's say Miguel is Miguel, and the issue at hand is that he is wrong about how the multiverse works, because there's all these like little inconsistencies. Now, are they inconsistencies in terms of writing, or is it deliberately part of the story? We'll see. You have this moment where you want the audience to know that this Spider-Man is kind of not on the up and up. When we meet him, you get to have the let's do this right this time. My name is Otto Octavius, and I was once Dr. Octopus, but now I am the superior Spider-Man. You create a dynamic there between the audience and the characters on screen where they are physically impossible and physically incapable of trusting like the leader of the Spider Society. And I've seen other people, raise the complaint that, an army of thousands upon hundreds of thousands upon millions of spider people would be completely opposed to this notion that you can't save everybody, or at least try, So the fact that the whole conceit of this army of spider people is that sometimes your uncle needs to die, and so does the police captain, and the person and the woman you love the most, and then you can be the best Spider-Man you could be. The idea that now it's framed as these are the people Otto recruited because they have the resolve another group of spider people wouldn't. And that would tie into the Spider-Verse comics, because that's exactly what Otto does. Because at the same time that Otto is recruiting spider people who are willing to kill, who are willing to go that extra mile, spider people who quite literally he makes take an oath of like, I'm willing to destroy another world if it means achieving our goals. You can then have a more true to the comics version. And again, that's not, true to the comics is not inherently good or bad. That can go either way. Interpretation has worked wonders, in fiction before. Without movies that get Batman kind of weird, we don't get the fucking grappling hook, So like all of that is up in the air. But for me, you take Miguel, who's also putting together like his army of spider people that directly oppose Otto's interpretation of how canon events and the timeline is supposed to work. And I think that's your angle, is that like you can then get into Otto being this flawed leader, and you can even then be like, it is Otto's arrogance and his belief in his scientific acumen and intellect that is why he's wrong, that he is so sure of this and is still fucking it up. And again, I think it adds an extra layer of tension. And I think that, again, like I like the idea of like Peter B being brought into the fold, because like it seems like he's one of the few just kind of original recipe kind of Peter Parkers there. Like everybody is so varied and, to our viewing different. Like, in the last movie, the team was made up of Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker, Penny Parker. Peter B, Noir, and Spider-Ham are all very different in terms of like their multiversal differences, but they're all versions of Peter Parker. Where this movie, it was Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Hobie Brown, Miguel O'Hara, Peter B. Parker, Ben Reilly. Like this one was like very, very deliberate in choosing other spider people who are not just Peter Parker, but ... So then you get more of that here too. And then you see Otto like making the decision of like, we need to have a Peter Parker at the table and bringing him into the fold. And maybe even not fully understanding what's going on or what the plan is. And again, I think that's another very Otto thing to do, is to potentially not be telling people the full truth, because Superior Spider-Man is a hero. at his core, like he is a superhero. He's a violent one. He's a cold one, but like he's still protecting people. It's just that he's not Peter Parker, and he does not do it in the same way Peter Parker does. And I don't know, like the more I've thought about it, I thought it opening night. I've sat on it. Friend of the show, Mitch from Comic Book Cast, tweeted it the other day, and it was so funny because I tweeted something about like Choco, it's the tweet you replied to, which is why you're here today. I was like, I have an opinion that might end up being controversial about Across the Spider-Verse, and Mitch replied to it with that GIF of Homer's friend from The Simpsons, like this, very pensive. And Mitch knew where I was going because he tweeted it, and then I like tweeted my quote tweet, and he's like, I knew it. We were on the same wavelength. And again, I know it's become a meme. Jarod just wants the Spider-Verse movies to be about Otto Octavius, and I
no,
will never beat those accusations.
I love Superior Spider-Man as well. I think it ran a little long, but it was really good. And I like what you're saying. I think it has potential, and I would love it if that's where we went next. Like
Yeah.
what if where we go next is, we get the Inheritors and we get Otto at the table, and you have these Spider-Man who are trying to find a peaceful resolution of like, how can we all get along? And then Otto's like, we're not getting along, we're putting them in the ground.
Yeah. And that's another thing is I think this movie could have been Miles seeing like this is the opposition. Gwen takes her contingent of spider people to the other side. Then you introduce 2099 with this army of like more noble, more traditional spider people, as opposed to Otto, who's like from the jump, like we're killing fucking villains. Like we'll send them back ideally, but like if the options are like, let the multiverse come undone or kill this fucking guy, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy.
So I'm gonna start with the reasons I like it, and then I got a counterpoint.
Okay.
Reason I like it. The thing I loved about this story, and the thing I love about stories like this, is a deconstruction of like the general narrative of a myth, right?
Yes. It's why we love The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why everybody on this screen right now loves The Last Jedi.
100%.
Also, the first Spider-Verse movie is The Last Jedi. It's the same.
I talked about that on Mile High Cinema. Peter B. Parker and Luke Skywalker are the same fucking guy in those movies.
I'll be damned. You're right. But I like, the narrative is what happens when you tell, because like part of the myth of Spider-Man is they take the heavy trauma blows and they get back up and they keep doing the right thing because they're Spider-Man or, equivalent. What happens when you tell them? Like what happens when you give them the script?
Yeah.
And how do they try to change it? And I think that's super interesting.
What's happening? Yeah.
Right. And I think.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You're probably going to say what I'm thinking.
I think the idea of having it be Otto enforcing it is neat because he's not inherently a Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like, as an outsider looking in a way, because obviously this would be post him being Spider-Man for a while. So he understands the importance, but because he's not inherently Peter Parker, he understands the importance,
Yeah, he understands the importance, and it's also like it's also fascinating because he was handed the script after the events transpired. Like he got to live like post like this hardship made him heroic and it made him this better man. He got to exist after that. And it's like, oh, I understand why you do this. I must now make sure it is imposed on all other spider people that this happens to you without knowing that pain, without knowing I indirectly caused Uncle Ben to die and I couldn't save Captain Stacy and oh my God, Gwen, oh my God, that he's like, oh, this has to happen to you to make you better. It's almost like it almost kind of turns into like the more toxic versions of Batman.
Mhm.
That it's that like, you need to be hard, you need to be, like, this pain needs to be a part of you. Yeah, as you were saying, Travis, sorry.
So that's the reason I like that idea. I think it's a very neat interpretation. I think that could really work. On the flip side, and the other thing too is like you can kind of do the other side of it with any Spider-Man. It doesn't have to be Miguel. I like what they did because of the idea that, and again, based on the information we've been given by the movie, so this could change in Beyond the Spider-Verse. If we are to believe that Miles getting bitten by the spider, the Earth 42 spider, is what kind of starts the multiverse to go wibbly wobbly, right? And Miguel actively blames Miles for what happened. Like, maybe breaking the canon to him, breaking the canon wasn't the problem. The problem was, now that the multiverse has started to shake apart, he broke the canon and this universe fell apart. Right? Like, that's how he met.
Yeah. Now
figures
that
it out.
these two things happened next to each other, it's that you did this and now shit's fucked.
Yeah.
Right.
Cause versus
And-
correlation.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so to the counterpoint of Miguel has never been depicted in this way, I think part of that, his characterization in this movie is, like, again, assuming he's not secretly like the main villain and assuming that he's actually Miguel O'Hara, he's having a trauma response to seeing Miles, where like he's been able to deal with it up until this point of, I'm just trying to keep everything in check. I'm trying to keep everything in line. It's a lot of stress on me, and I deal with it. The moment he sees Miles, he snaps because he's like, you did this. Like, everything bad that's happened to me up until this point, you did, and now you're telling me that you think you get to have it better than all of us. Right? Take your lumps like the rest of us. You caused my bad thing, right? Is kind of the...
And that really is the trade-off then, isn't it? It's the more personal vendetta he has versus just Otto leaning into Otto's worst traits to make him more of an antagonistic
Right.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
And I think on one hand, you can do what they did with it being someone other than Miguel. It works with it, Miguel, because of the futuristic tech. Like, he'd have a more clear understanding of what's going on around him.
He's the one who made the breakthrough as to how to just do this.
Right. But it could really be any Spider-Man. But it then Superior, like Otto would lose some of his Otto-ness if he's being that emotional about it.
Yeah, I think where you get the trade-off there, and again, what you're saying is absolutely correct. Your interpretation of Miguel, I think, is spot on here. For me, the reason why like Otto kind of getting like in his feelings about it is that it's more to do with like his pride as a scientist, which is Otto's like cardinal fucking sin, both as Dr. Octopus and as Spider-Man. Is that like his hubris obviously leads him to get his ass handed to him by Spider-Man his entire career. But as Spider-Man, like going back to the comics, Travis, you and I, Heroic History 101, a show I'd love to bring back at some point now that our schedules are more amicable towards that.
Our first episode. I have reading time now.
Yeah, you have reading time now. Like, we can actually...
I've read 300 chapters of manga in the last 3 days.
We can absolutely bring back Heroic History 101 soon. Don't mind that. I knocked over a vent. I know, Richard.
I was like, did you knock it onto a cat?
No. Richard's screaming at me through the door, like in perfect time. He misses his papa. Otto, like in the comics, like he's so sure of his technology that like it becomes a fault where like the Goblin Nation can like hack his stuff, and it's like, your drones don't know what the Green Goblin looks like, asshole. we're literally going to take over entire boroughs of the city before you realize it. So Otto being in this position where like he doesn't understand the multiverse as well as he thinks he does, and Miles is living proof of that. That his Earth has not, begun to fall into this horrifying inky void that Mumbattan does. He does not run into that issue, and there are, the other Earth that yes, it's a darker timeline because that Miles never got to become Spider-Man, but it still did not slip into this weird, like inky oblivion. That Earth did not cave in on itself temporally. It's a shithole because there's no Spider-Man, and their Spider-Man became probably its worst villain. And I think Otto's another fun reflection of that. That like this is what happens when like the power and the responsibility may fall into the wrong hands. That even though he is a hero and he does the right thing by the end, there's still those questionable decisions, and I think it would also reflect in Miles seeing his darker Prowler self.
I also think that it's going to be revealed in the next movie, so possible spoilers, I guess. That the vision
spoilers, I hope.
Yeah, the vision of Captain Morales dying is actually from Earth 42.
I mean, yeah,
like it's just because like he had his uncle dying moment, right? Like if we're going to equate the father figure dying to push you to be greater,
well, that's the thing. It's the police captain. That's the verbiage that is the hang up there. Is that
which
it's like
you lose, and again, but that's why I like it. I think that's going to be the hang up. And that's why I love the idea of being like, okay, here's the script. What are you going to do? Right? Like if that's your plot, they're getting so hung up on the fact that he's a captain. Maybe it just didn't matter. Right? Like,
I mean, and they do have like one last line of dialogue where Jefferson Davis is like, hey, I'm not captain yet. And that's while the Spot is like charging into reality at the end. And it's like, well, what if that is the thing? Is it like he isn't captain, so he can't die yet?
Well, and like
everyone keeps calling him captain, but he hasn't been.